Welcome, everybody. Ooh, that's a hot mic. Welcome, everybody. This is our special meeting study session. Please note for the record that every council member except Councilmember Villasenor is present, and we will get started with our discussion of the 2026 strategic plan update. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Ooh, hot mic. So the red lines are essentially the notes that our retreat facilitator made as a part of the discussion at our retreat. And so really what I wanted to do is walk through the notes and potential changes. Head nods are great if there's consensus on the changes. If there's not, the council should discuss those. And then if we're split, while we're not going to vote on an updated strategic plan as a part of the study session, if there's specific things that we want to add or take away that we're split on, we should vote on those. So I'm just going to start with goal A. And so what we haven't done, so we put this strategic plan together in this format in 2023, coming out of that retreat. And we haven't made adjustments to the goals since then. The objectives under each goal have moved like we had planned on them moving and have come and gone as they've been accomplished. And so this is the first time in at least 3 years that we've looked at adjusting the goals. And so just want the council to be mindful of that as we look to make adjustments there. And so I'll start with the goals and then we'll go to the things under the goals piece by piece. And so with goal A, the original goal was continue to manage city operations with sound fiscal planning and actions that ensure long-term sustainability. The suggested change coming out of the retreat was to make that more efficient of a sentence to say manage city operations with sound fiscal planning and actions that ensure sustainable services. I like that change. Is that a change that we like? Okay. And so I'm just going to go to the additions in the goals or in the objectives themselves. So for the second one down, develop annual legislative priorities. There was a suggestion to add based on financial forecasts. She didn't give us notes on who the suggestions came from, but throwing. I think it's more efficient to leave it at develop annual legislative priorities only because they're not always based on financials. We always have a financial ask, but we have had things like we've left on our legislative priorities for a couple of years, the behavioral health requests. And I think that's been productive. And so they're not always based on financial forecasts as far as what we ask the legislature for.
Yeah, I would agree. I think they're often based on community priorities too. So I think it's financial forecast is one element of it, but I think it's more holistic. So I would leave it without the red line.
Are we okay leaving that red line out? Okay. All right, the next one down, partner with local and state legislators to pursue funding options. And then the suggestion was partner with the community to secure additional tax revenue. Is that an add we want? Should that be a separate goal? Should it say something different? I know we put together a fiscal sustainability task force that will just be getting off the ground this month. Should that be something that we adjust moving forward?
Yeah, I wouldn't be in favor of the red line. I think that's too prescriptive. We don't know if we're going to seek additional tax revenue. I'd want to hear what the task force has to say. And I think just keeping it broad on funding options, whether that's grant, grants, otherwise different, applications. I wouldn't want to narrow it to that degree.
Okay.
Can we put something in there stating that, when the fiscal sustainability group, something to the effect that So it's in there, regardless of whether it gets used or suggested to get used or whatever. Maybe it's a separate line item.
Go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, I think it would be more appropriate as a different line item, because this line item talks about partnering with other elected officials. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, we also have continue exploring additional revenue options. So it feels like we're saying the same thing over.
Well, I would recommend that it's separate as well, and maybe change it to read something like engage with community and business stakeholders to generate additional tax revenue. So we're separating it out, and again, we're trying to encourage more creative thinking and people coming forward with ideas and how we can diversify our revenue streams.
Would we want to say, would we want to utilize the line that's there now and maybe change it from a 4 to a 1, because we're going to do it now? But it'd be something like continue exploring additional revenue options, utilizing fiscal sustainability task force recommendations or something to that effect.
Well, if the fiscal sustainability committee is going to be temporary, maybe we need something more long-lasting, talking about community and business.
We can leave it as a 4,
Engaging.
like we're always doing it. So the 4 priority is we do it always. We're doing it. We do it every year. It's not a,
Okay,
it's not a we're gonna get it done and then it's gonna come off. It's a we're always gonna do this. So we could leave it as a 4 and still include the fiscal sustainability task force in it.
I agree, it should be separate. The local and state legislatures should be its
Yeah.
own separate line item. I think is what we're all agreeing on. And
Yeah. Do we want to
How
add it
that
to
would be
the
done.
continue exploring additional revenue options? It's a couple lines down. Or do we want to make it its own thing to say utilize fiscal sustainability task force recommendations?
I think it's separate, I would agree,
Separate.
because it's separate. To my mind anyway, continuing exploring additional revenue options, I would have read that to be that the city itself or the governmental agency of the municipality is exploring other revenue options. Whereas the community and business members, entirely different stakeholder set.
Okay. Are we okay making it?
For example, to my mind, again, I
Yeah.
could be wrong, and I was thinking in our past discussions about how we could encourage redevelopment of the downtown core area and what we could do to encourage businesses to locate here, to start here, and be sustained here. That's kind of the flavor of that particular objective that I think makes sense.
So do we want to make a separate one that says utilize fiscal sustainability task force recommendations?
Sure.
Yeah, I think that sounds correct. And the downtown stuff I think is gonna come in later goals.
Okay. Well,
But yeah,
under business? Under revenue?
yeah, I think the downtown, there's one that talks about local economy, right?
Oh, under sustainable, well-planned.
Goal E.
underground- Goal E.
So I think that the downtown stuff will, what you're saying about encouraging,
Right, okay, I see that there.
yeah,
Use the
encouraging the
residential.
local economy.
So a red line that then, so going to the next one, right in the middle is continue to monitor and update the 6-year forecast utilizing the sustainability model as a tool. And then the suggestion was study it at least once per year. Could that be something that says monitor and update the 6-year forecast utilizing the sustainability model as a tool at least once per year? Okay. Are we okay if I wordsmith that? Okay. And then the next one down is adding through an ad hoc committee, update city council operating policies and procedures. We're doing that. I think that's a good one to put as a one, the way that it's adjusted there.
Does it need to be ad hoc, or is it just a committee?
We could say through a committee, that's fine.
It's kind of an ad hoc committee that we can re-up whenever we need it, but I don't think it's a committee that's continually meeting throughout the year. And that's how we structured it recently. We created that ad hoc committee. So I think that makes sense, even though it might be an ad hoc committee that we bring forward every few years.
All right. Oh, and then the last one was changing the priority. It's implement investment options that maximize returns, such as separately managed accounts. The suggestion was to change that from a 4, which means we're always doing it, to a 2. I'm not sure what the thinking was there at the retreat. Anybody remember?
I would keep it as a 4, just
Yeah, me
continue, because there could be new opportunities
Right.
that, and I think you need to monitor that every year to see what's available.
Okay. Oh, are we good at leaving that alone? I'm good with that. Okay. All right, goal B. The suggested change to the goal itself was to change resilient to sustainable. So develop and maintain sustainable infrastructure to support operations and meet growth. Do we like that change? Okay. So I think Anna, our retreat facilitator, threw in a bunch of notes under goal B. I'm not sure that they all belong there. And so we can go through them and talk about whether we like them, but then let's apply them to the goal that they belong to. Does that work for everybody? Downtown bike and pedestrian safety infrastructure. I'm not sure what the goal was there or what the objective would be. That one actually, depending on what the goal, what the objective is, would probably belong under goal B as far as infrastructure.
I mean, that feels like it fits under continue to implement non-motorized capital improvement projects.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Are we okay? That's already covered? All right, the next one, renter feedback solicitation. This comes up again under goal D, right in the middle there. Added it as proactive input from renters in that middle goal in gray. So do we want to address it when we get to goal D?
Yeah, I think it makes more sense.
Okay. That's right. 2 town halls per year, again, that comes up under goal D as well. We can talk about it when we get there. Increase housing diversity and supply. I think that would probably go under goal E or stay under goal B. But I don't know what the objective was. It's a pretty broad objective. Do we want to tighten it? Is it an objective that we want to define better?
I have an idea for it, but I would put it under E, so I can hold it until then if folks were comfortable with that.
Storage replacement, I think this was geared towards, we have a lot of storage at the park at 95th site, and possibly getting that moved so that we can utilize the site more fully for park options, rather than having a chunk of it taken away for public works storage. That's just my recollection of the conversation a little bit. Comments on that one? I do think if that's something that we want to consider, that it belongs under goal B for sure. Do we like that one, or we don't, or that's not a high priority?
I don't see it as.
I think it belongs under B, but I just,
it's fine.
but the big, first question is it a priority?
B or D?
B as in boy.
As in boy, yeah.
I mean,
I don't know if it feels like a pretty specific, it feels like we're not quite there yet.
I agree. It seems like we should get further along in our development of plans for the park at 95th before we decide if we need to move stuff off the site or not. Okay, I'm gonna scratch it.
it almost sounds like a city operations kind of a, you know, being more efficient. I don't know. It might have been just an idea that got tossed out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, tenant protections.
Similarly, I would probably punt it to E. Folks okay with that?
The only objective under that one that was added was at the very bottom, so it'll be on your second page. Coordinate with Renton on projects impacting both cities. I think that's a good one to add as a 4, if that works for everybody.
I agree.
I would move to add an additional line item for B. I would want to add completion of T-044 Coal Creek Parkway non-signalized improvements. And I think that would fall under a 3. I would defer to Carrie and other staff though if they feel like it is in a different number.
So one of the things I didn't worry about, just because I took Anna's red lines and just took her document, so I didn't worry about updating the capital projects piece of it, and I'll do a full update of those. And so we'll make that adjustment for all of the capital projects that are included in the plan to what we've just discussed over the last couple of meetings and tonight with SWIM. And so we'll make sure that those are all per the current 6-year plans.
Thank you. Yes, let my passion for that left turn light be noted, please.
All right, goal C, maintain a safe community. And then there was the suggestion during the retreat to add through emergency preparedness. Happy to listen to council's feedback. I think that it makes the goal too specific. I think that emergency preparedness is important, and maybe there needs to be something more specific in the objectives about it. But as part of the goal, I think it's too specific.
I would add it, though, as a goal under C, to develop, you know, basically develop an emergency preparedness plan and monitor annually, something along those lines, yeah.
Do we all like that? All right.
I would do, so the line item number 3, that was something I originally added in. And the fun part of this, I think we're on the other side of it. So I think I have a suggestion for change language for that I wrote down. I'll pass to you after I read city manager. And I think it's a 4 now because we've developed that partnership, and we had obviously the presentation from True and other folks, but change to just continue support of a holistic behavioral health response through partnerships with King County Therapeutic Response Unit and Project Be Free. And I think it's a 4. I think because, before it was we wanted to look at it. Now we're actively doing it. So I think it's kind of graduated to that stage.
Do we like that language? I think that's good language for it. Okay. All right, goal D. So there was, oh, sorry, go.
Are we still on C? So there was the evaluate the short and long-term needs and costs for public safety services.
Yep, go ahead. I missed
I
it.
don't think it's obsolete, but I would just say it's something we need to do annually, right? Make it 4.
And I think, I agree with that. I think it's something that we do annually, and so,
And then, rather than develop a crime prevention plan specific to Newcastle, I believe that's already in case as well, correct? So just say maintain?
yeah, so we need to get it adopted. So before we
Oh.
adopted it last, we had a police chief change, and Chief Mandela wanted to be able to have time to take a look at it too, in case he wants to make any
Okay.
adjustments before the council adopts it. So, yeah.
So we hope to move that to a 4 later this year.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
I think that would be the
Okay.
goal.
Anything else for goal C objectives before we move on? Okay,
Okay, so goal D had been encourage community engagement and provide customer service excellence. The suggestion that came out of the retreat was to split those, or are they separate goals? Or do we like them together? So potentially a separate goal would be provide customer service excellence. Or do we like them together the way that they are?
I kind of like them together. But I don't know how others feel. Can't remember the discussion of why we wanted to split it up.
I think it was just we had 4 or 5 groups that then considered and we reported out. I think it was how one of the groups reported out. But we didn't, at the retreat, we didn't necessarily discuss or debate what was reported out. We just took notes on it, or Anna just took notes on it.
To my mind, I mean, they're 2 entirely separate things, right? So encouraging community engagement, that's very proactive. Whereas customer service excellence is something that the city, is providing. I would split them out.
Why do we need provide customer service excellent? Isn't that part of the job description of the employees of the city?
Of course. But I think it's also the goals, when we put the goals together initially, the whole point of it was they're kind of like our statements on the type of city that we are trying to be and become. And so that's why it was included in there.
Has the support of the council. It has the support of the council, if you do it that way, rather than let the city staff do what they feel like they want to do.
So if we split them out, what gets split out? So the reason why I like them together is because there's things like the community satisfaction survey that we do every other year, and I think that fits under both. Like it's part of us trying to improve and engage how our services are received so that we can provide better customer service, but it's also a way that we reach out and engage with the community on what we're doing. And so I'm not sure how we split out the objectives underneath it if we split them into separate goals.
Just a quick question, is the customer service excellent an objective or a goal?
That's a good point. Maybe that becomes an objective. I like that. Thank you.
Or maybe that's a 4. We just split it out. and make it just be encourage community engagement and providing customer service excellence as a part of that. Okay. All wordsmith something as a 4 priority for that.
Yeah, so as I think to be consistent, we have a goal A, B, C, and D. Only D added that goal D dash D.1. I agree. We can put that as one of the objectives. Yeah.
All right, now we're into some of the ads for that goal. Under the one in the middle, solicit feedback from residents through such methods as neighborhood meetings and other forms of community outreach. There is a desire to be proactive about getting input from renters. Is there a way we want to include that as part of that objective, or is that a separate objective? And is it a priority objective?
Sorry, go ahead. I think it should be separate. I think we have enough renters in the community. It should be a separate objective.
What's the objective?
So I think, renters are our residents. So if we want to emphasize the inclusion of renters, we can combine like from residents, including renters, some wording like that. We don't have to separate them as 2 items.
I think I remember from the meeting, it might have even been from the group I was in potentially. I think there was some discussions back then anyway that the renters maybe felt left out of the process because they're only renting versus ownership. I don't remember, but I remember the discussion that the renters came into play more than before.
Yeah, I would say, I think you could do it either way. I think if you're doing it in this line item, you should say, I think the term neighborhood meetings kind of boxes out renters. I would say, so if you want to do it in the same line item, I would say maybe change the language through such methods as neighborhood meetings and direct outreach to apartment complexes or something of that nature. Or if we wanted to make it a separate line item to sort of emphasize, because it hasn't been, and I've received this feedback from, I think, both commissions that they've struggled to contact renters for feedback, it could be a separate line item just saying like initiate, and maybe that's not a 4, but like a 1 or a 2, initiate like new efforts to try to contact renters through apartment complex engagement with leasing agents at the apartment complex or something of that nature. I'm fine going either way, but those I think would be the best 2 options.
We could simplify it a little bit, just solicit feedback from residents through such methods as neighborhood meetings and other forms of community outreach, including outreach to renters, something along those lines. So it's just part of that whole sentence. We're not singling them out. We're just making sure that we're including them in whatever pool that we're trying to gather information from.
I like it.
And-
I like your idea.
So somebody help me with what it says now.
What it says now, and then after community outreach, comma, including input from renters.
Okay.
Or it could be including proactive input from renters, which is what's there. Just calling them out.
Well, the goal is to reach all residents, so their residents as well.
Yep.
I think it's necessary to include everyone, but I think I have heard some renters feel like left out, so that's why I think including other than as a separate item, kind of single out. That's why I like the idea of using inclusion. Yeah.
All right, 2 town halls per year. Do we want that to be a 2 minimum, or just 2 town halls per year as a 4? What do you want to have there?
I definitely think we should have 2 a year, certainly at a minimum. I can't imagine a 3rd one, but you never know. And I think it should be ongoing because we can decide then when the 2 are gonna be held.
I feel strongly we should keep the language because we have been doing 2 town halls every year. But, in case we need more town hall meetings, so we can still do it.
Do we want it to say at least 2 town halls per year and make it a 4?
Probably, instead of at least, I'd just say minimum of 2 town hall meetings.
This is me being slightly nitpicky, but thinking about this in the framework of like, if there was an entirely different staffing council, I would actually want to add, like, you have the town halls 2 minimum per year, and then I would add a short snippet of like, efforts to make them inclusive, including a room for youth, so working parent. Or you could just say room for youth or something of that nature. I think that's a cool thing we do that we could codify a little bit.
You mean the babysitting?
Yeah, I think maybe something like a minimum of 2 town halls per year, something about
Maybe at least
Being
1 to
accessible.
include.
I would just say
You-
that are accessible to all residents or something like that.
Why would they not both be accessible to all residents?
No, that all of them are, is what I'm saying. But I think Paul's point is to make sure that we're letting people know through this document that our town halls are accessible to everyone, that's important.
Comfortable with language like that rather than just saying youth. Just with the goal of making them inclusive to all citizens, regardless of ability, disability, age, gender, any of that.
Yeah,
Just
I agree.
so we're not overly restrictive or prescriptive for future city councils. That was where my mind was going with.
Are we worried that somebody's gonna get excluded from a town hall? It seems a little bit, I don't mean overkill, but
The point I was making was just specifically the youth room because it's the thing that we have done, and I think it's a good practice. And codifying it for reference if other people are looking at this document years down the line. That's all I was saying.
Go ahead.
I feel strongly, the languages actually town hall is for everybody. So if we want to emphasize, we can say 2 minimum per year for all. So we don't have to just include one group because people would say, okay, how about other groups, right, for town hall meeting? Just very general, we include everybody.
I guess I'm also wondering if this is the document to be that specific, because we're also looking at our rules and maybe we can elaborate more.
Yeah, say that this document's not that document.
So are
So
we,
minimum of 2 town halls per year and call it good.
is that all right? Okay.
So just maybe it's semantics, but we have in various places residents, citizens, community members. Do we want that to all be one thing rather than several?
Well, if we're trying to not to leave anybody out, I would say residents, probably first, if we can, versus,
So community members has become more of the norm. And we can do whatever, but I would just make that more,
well, if you work in the
or
community.
not have so many different versions of it in the document.
No, it seems kind of ambiguous to me, community, I mean, somebody that works at Safeway technically is working in the community, doesn't mean they're necessarily a resident of Newcastle. So,
Right, I think that's trying to include, business owners that may not be residents in Newcastle, but they're part of our community. So I
Okay.
think that's why you'd say community members.
Are we okay with
I
community
like
members?
community members.
I'll make that common. All right, next one. Discuss financial situation through a public process/surveys.
I think it's encompassed by other goals. I'm fine not including it. And I think we actively do it as well.
I would say that seems taken care of through the, what did we add earlier? About, in the first objective, about this fiscal sustainability.
I'm gonna scratch that. Website as a customer service tool. I would say that's a 4, but was there anything in particular that we were trying to get to other than utilizing the website?
well, it was probably before we talked about, or the actual website was the updated website, maybe that was the discussion point at that point. I mean, website would be ongoing regardless of what, I mean, it's not necessarily just customer service. I mean, there's a lot of information on there that's not customer service related.
Yeah, it sounds like if we only state website as a customer service tool, it sounds quite limited because our website serves a lot of functions. We have more than one way to serve customers and the community.
Do we think it's needed, or we should scratch it?
Yeah, scratch it.
Scratch it. Okay. All right, anything on goal D before we move on? Okay, goal E. So lots of potential changes here. So there's some changes in the goal, the way it's written itself there, and then there was 2 additional suggestions that would make it maybe a little shorter. So we have foster a welcoming community with a strong economy as the shortest version. Or the second suggestion on your 3rd page is sustain a well-planned, programmed, beautiful, affordable, inclusive, and economically vibrant Newcastle. I'm super biased, but I think I suggested the foster a welcoming community with a strong economy. But happy to go with whatever there.
I like the second one personally. Sustainable.
I also like the second one. Sorry, City Manager.
I like the second one, but I prefer the verb faster versus sustain. Just replace sustain with faster, but the rest use the second one. That's my personal opinion.
So I'll get a small win if we change sustain to foster.
I like the first one.
A quick question, oh my goodness. The programmed, what does that connotate? Do we know why that verbiage was in there?
I don't know where that came from.
I would recommend tossing that if we go with that one. I'm not quite sure what programmed
Okay. Do we like sustained versus foster or foster versus sustained?
I think I'm fine with either.
I
I
like
think
the fostering, and I
programmed.
think welcoming covers a bunch of the other things that are in the second choice.
I think programming was referring to like city services and events and all that. So I like it personally.
We might need to take this one to a vote.
Could we make the sustained maintained instead of sustained?
I feel like sustain sounds better than maintain, and faster, I think the meaning is deeper and broader.
I mean, personally, I like the succinct, foster a welcoming community with a strong economy, but we might need to take this to a vote. Any oth-
So just to try to strengthen my reasoning, I think my group specifically at the retreat was all of the CAC members and Charlie. So I'm just saying that was coming from the community. And Len, I think Len was in ours. And Harvey was there.
Okay, so it sounds like the original kind of wordsmith one, people are not as keen on. So we're looking at foster a welcoming community with a strong economy. Or the other suggestion, which we're potentially wordsmithing, sustain a well-planned, programmed, beautiful, affordable, inclusive, and economically vibrant Newcastle.
So maybe a suggestion, do we want to vote on first one versus second one first? And then we can figure out sustain, foster, maintain,
Sure.
if that's the choice.
Do we need to make a motion, or can we just?
Up to you guys, as long as you guys are willing to.
Show of hands.
Okay, we'll just do a show of hands, who prefers the shorter, foster a welcoming community with a strong economy? 4. And then the second suggestion. Okay. Do we want to just go with the shorter version? Is everybody okay with that? Okay. I don't see any opposition to that. Thank you.
All right, getting into then the objectives to that goal. What we've had leading up to now is a bunch of 4s. There weren't necessarily any suggestions for changes to those leading up to today, at least not at the retreat. But looking at the additional, we have, I think we had a couple that we were pushing to goal E, correct, from what was in goal B? So that would
Yes,
be
I have
the increased housing diversity, was that one of them?
yes, and I have one that could, I mean, it might encompass some of the other red lines, but this is the language I'm proposing, to add an additional line item, review existing city zoning for opportunities to increase local housing options.
Do we like that? Say it one more time.
Review existing city zoning for opportunities to increase local housing options.
Oh, thank you, perfect. Do we think that takes care of things that are already written down? Deploy land use as a tool to promote downtown uses, facilitate ADU construction, increase renter protections, promote a welcoming community. What does that take care of, do you think?
I think it takes care of the pull down from goal B. I think the land use as a tool to promote downtown uses is encompassed by a downtown line item, which we could maybe change from downtown strategic plan into incorporate feedback from the downtown activation committee. ADU construction, I guess that doesn't entirely fall under zoning. I guess it's like kind of permitting as well as, but I think it's kind of under, I don't know if that needs to be called out as an individual line item. I have one for renter protections that's different, and then, I mean, welcome community, I think, is kind of just encompassed by everything.
Can you read that one more time that we just added?
So the added objective is review existing city zoning for opportunities to increase local housing options. And so do you want to have a separate one then for tenant protections? But do we, so does that, so looking at the added ones in red, does that take care of deploy land use as a tool? So we'll scratch that. Does it take care of facilitate ADU construction? Okay, so we'll scratch that one. And then we will want to have a separate one for increased renter or tenant protections.
I got review regional tenant protections legislation for consideration in Newcastle. And then as a priority, 1 or 2. Yes.
I'm okay with reviewing renter legislation, but I'm uncomfortable with increased renter protection. I'm not hearing issues, and I think it's a topic we need to get educated on and monitor.
Another win for my wordsmithing.
So I think what we're saying is not go with the increased renter protection suggestion, and instead say review tenant protections legislation for consideration in Newcastle.
Mhm.
I mean, we say foster a welcoming community in the goal, so I don't know if that's an objective.
Sorry, going back, so review existing city zoning, is that a 4? Is that a 1? What's the priority?
I would. It's good. I can make arguments for both. I think you could put it in as a 4 to give us more flexibility.
And then what about the renter protections?
I think that's probably a 1. Just because 2 is 2 or 3 years, and I know there's already existing legislation out there. So,
Okay. Are we okay with those? Okay. And then of the ones that are existing, did we change or combine any of those? So the implement the downtown strategic plan, that'll change to incorporate feedback from the downtown activation committee. Leave that as a 4, or has that now become more specific? Make that a 1?
I think that
or-
becomes more specific since we're actively doing that. Yeah.
Okay, so we want to make that a 1? Okay. Anything else on goal E?
Karen, did we address what you were wanting to address earlier? As far as,
Specifically, I've spoken a lot, so. What?
I mean, you were talking about, I guess there is one in here that says, promote opportunities that encourage new businesses
Yes,
to locate in
Yeah,
Newcastle,
yeah,
so that
yeah.
sounds good to you?
yeah, it's,
Yeah, so the top 2, yeah.
oh, I was just gonna say, but I would, rather than promote opportunities, I think we've been lacking in really engaging the business community. because ideas that may revitalize their downtown will certainly come from them. Whereas this is more, oh gosh, if we hear about opportunities, we'll push them out in the community, and we need that input from the community. So however you want to wordsmith that.
So
If you agree.
what about, so we have the two there, what about the second one down? Between the two, is that what you're getting at, or do we need a different one? Foster an environment that helps existing businesses grow and thrive?
They're pretty close to one another. Again, I would split out one of them to be engaging the community as a goal, where we're proactively engaging the community, and the other is to actually encourage, nurture, however we want to phrase it, opportunities or environment for the business community.
I think they're completely different personally. I mean, engaging the current businesses and fostering new business development, I think are completely different.
Yeah, they are.
So, do we need to change those two lines at all?
Well, as I said, the second one I would change to an engagement somehow. Engage the existing businesses to help them grow and thrive or something. Again, we're being proactive to get the feedback. We'll seek it out. We will step forth in their place of business and actually talk to them versus wait for things to come across our door.
So it would say engage existing businesses to help them grow and thrive. We're good with that?
Sounds good.
Okay. Goal F. The original goal is leverage Newcastle resources to provide recreation and cultural opportunities and preserve our local history. And the suggested adjustment is improve recreation, community events, and cultural opportunities while honoring our local history. Do we like the change or the original?
I'll go with the change.
He's good with the change. Everybody seeing head nods.
And then the main change under that goal is, it just says promenade development, dog park stage. So again, if the council's okay with it, that'll be a part of updating all of it to match our updated 6-year plans for capital improvements. Any other changes or desired adjustments to the strategic plan? Okay, so I'll put this I'll take the way it currently sits and make the adjustments. I'll put it out to the council in a Friday update just so that you see it before it's before you to approve, but we'll plan on putting it in consent unless there's objections to that.
Looks good. Thanks, everybody. We have time for a 5-minute break before our regular meeting starts. Welcome, everyone. I'm calling this meeting of the Newcastle City Council to order at 7:03 p.m. Today is Tuesday, July 7th, 2026. My name is Mayor Ariana Sherlock. This meeting is being streamed live and recorded on the city's YouTube channel for future viewing. Thank you to everyone in attendance this evening. There are 2 public comment periods during our regular meetings. And so if you are wanting to speak at either of them, please make sure to sign up on the sheets on that table over there. There's one for each period, so if you decide later that you want to speak at the second one, please go ahead and put your name on it later in the evening so that we can make sure to call your name. And with that, will you please rise and join me in the flag salute? City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Burford.
Here.
Councilmember Griffin.
Here.
Councilmember Villasenor. Here. Councilmember Frost Blakely.
Present.
Councilmember Jacobs.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Charbonneau.
There.
Mayor Sherlock.
Here.
All here, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, next item is approval of tonight's agenda. Are there any requested changes or additions from council members? All right, seeing none, please show the agenda approved as presented. So now we will open our public comment period, our first public comment period. And this is an opportunity for members of the public, thank you, to address the council. When you come to the podium, please state your name and your neighborhood for the record, and comments are limited to 3 minutes. So with that, we will begin public comment. City Clerk, is there anyone who signed up online for comments? No. All right. First on my list is Len Troutman. And when you come to the podium, there's a button at the base of the microphone. When you see the red light, you can start talking.
Hi, folks. Len Troutman. I've been in Hazelwood neighborhood for a little bit over 41 years. And I'm looking with interest at agenda item 12.2, discussion of potential surplus properties. And I'm wondering if you folks might, in your discussion of the disposition of those properties, address aspects such as if that's public property in the sense that, like city parks are public property, and as such, does the public have a say in what happens with that property, either through a vote or a hearing? And generally, I don't know the answer to these questions. That's why I'm hoping that you might address it. The public, I would assume, gets some benefit out of the sale of, if it's public property. And if it's sold, the city gets money, the taxpayers don't have to pay so much because there's some income there. But if it's donated, the benefits are a little less tangible. And like I say, in the discussion, if you can maybe touch on those aspects a little bit, I'd appreciate it. And I've been asked by some other community members similar questions. So if you could work that into the conversation, I'd appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. Next on my list is Ed Flash.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here on behalf of the Newcastle Arts Council. Just want to officially invite you all to attend our art fair on July 18th. It's from 10 to 5, and we have over 50 artists that are going to be displaying their artwork at the fair. If you would also like to volunteer, we could use some volunteers as well. So hope to see you on the 18th. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes our first public comment period. Next on our agenda is ceremonial presentations. Tonight, we will be presenting a proclamation for the United States 250th celebration. I will read the proclamation into the record, and then we will present it to the community activities commissioners that are here tonight and take a few photos. So, this proclamation is for the United States 250th celebration. Whereas July 4, 2026 marks the 250th anniversary of the adoption of the Declaration of Independence in 1776 and the founding of the United States of America. And whereas the Washington State Legislature established the Semi-Quincentennial Committee in 2022 to coordinate and provide guidance for Washington's official observance of the 250th anniversary, and appointed the Washington State Historical Society as the administering agency for all America's 250 planning. And whereas the Washington State Historical Society has a mission to partner with our communities to explore how history connects us all, and has a directive to assist and encourage cultural and historical organizations and efforts throughout the state. And whereas preserving, studying, celebrating, and appreciating our shared history helps strengthen communities as we work together toward the ideals of liberty and equality embedded in the Declaration of Independence. And whereas the 250th anniversary provides an opportunity to celebrate and recognize the significant contributions Washingtonians have made to local, state, and national history. And whereas the Washington State Historical Society desires to focus attention during the commemorative season on local communities, local histories, and local voices through its community partnership program, historical initiatives, educational resources, and promotional support. And whereas the City of Newcastle, founded in 1994, has contributed proudly and significantly to the history of the United States of America and the state of Washington for over 30 years. Now, therefore, I, Ariana Sherlock, Mayor of the City of Newcastle, Washington, proclaim that the City of Newcastle will engage in commemorative activities during the United States semi-quincentennial year of 2026, and call upon all its residents to reflect upon the significance of this commemoration and the role of our community and its diverse people have played in the history and development of the United States of America. All right, take a picture. All right. Next up is council comments. Councilmember Burford, do you want to start us off?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming, and also thank you, Patty, our insurance commissioner Kudra, spent your time here because we know you're very busy, and we are so excited to have your presentation tonight. And also, I also want to echo what Arts Council Chair, President at Flash just shared. This on the 18th of this month, we have Newcastle Arts Council's Art Fair. This is our annual event. I will be there, and I hope to see more of you to engage our community to have fun with arts. Also, for the annual AWC conference in Spokane, I attended the annual conference with our Deputy Mayor Charbonneau and our Manager Pingo. And it was really, really engaging and insightful, informative conference again. Also, it's my honor to join with cohort, with Sally cohort 3. I've been working with Mercer Island City Council member Ted, and also Lake Forest Park Deputy Mayor Tracy, and Shoreline Shoreline Council member Laura. So we team up. I'm really excited to join this cohort. It's ongoing until the end of this summer. And also, I just want to shout out to our city for such wonderful, amazing fireworks on the lake on July 2nd. It's really, really the best ever fireworks show. Residents told me the feedback. They just say our taxpayers' money really, really put in great use. Such a huge community, everybody came out. So in Chinese we say, people mountain, people sea. Means just a huge crowd with cheers and laughter and families and children. And I was so happy to run into a lot of my students and former and current as well. So that means not only Newcastle residents, community members from nearby, like Renton, Bellevue, of course, even Maple Valley, even Sammamish, and Issaquah, of course. So for me, I'm very proud of our city. Thank you all for organizing, and thank you, Amy. And you have done a lot of work, and also our city works. They were cleaning up at the end of the event. They showed up the first, they stayed the latest. So I just want to say thank you. One word cannot express my appreciation. Thank you again.
Thank you. Councilmember Griffin?
Thank you, Mayor Sherlock. I want to welcome everybody for being here tonight. For those of you who don't have to be here, you've given up your time to come down here and listen to us. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Councilmember Villasenor?
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to also thank the city staff and the CAC and the many sponsors who made our Independence Day celebration at Lake Boren happen to celebrate our nation's 250th anniversary. It was great to see so many of our local and regional neighbors braving the rain to celebrate. Yeah, summer is such an important time in the Pacific Northwest because we all get a chance to get out of our houses and visit with each other. So I hope you will continue to stay on top of the many events that we have locally. You can find them on our website. If you subscribe to our communications, they will be communicated to you. There are many opportunities to get out, mix and mingle with your neighbors, and just enjoy the summer that we have to offer here in Washington State. Thank you.
Councilmember Frost Blakely?
Well, I concur with my fellow council members on that fabulous July 2nd celebration. I know those of you who are in the crowd probably were in attendance as well. And I can also attest to meeting people from all around our region coming out for this event. And kudos to our staff. Amy George, you were, your hair was on fire. You were everywhere at once when I saw you at the event. And it's a fun place to volunteer. So think about that for next year. I got to bandage a young man's hand who had a giant blister that burst, and reunite a charming young woman with her lovely pink wallet stuffed full of cash that had been lost at the event. So you get to meet your neighbors and be, help your community by doing that. And one other thing that I wanted to say that was kind of magical, we had a double rainbow, and I see the city ticket. That was just very, very special. So looking forward to the next event, the art fair on the 18th. That's all I have to say right now.
Thank you. Councilmember Jacobs?
Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. I also will echo the rest of the council's comments about the 4th of July, or the 2nd of July. I thought it was an awesome event. Congratulations to Newcastle again for putting on a fabulous event. I think we should all be very proud of what we do on that day, and we get people from all over the community that come. So I hope we continue that tradition in the future, and I'm sure we won't have any disagreements about how we continue to pay for that in the future. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Charbonneau?
Yeah, thank you to staff and everyone involved in the celebration. Excited for the art fair July 18th, and would echo everyone's comments there. And then welcome as well to our 2 new staff members. Excited to get to know both of you, and we hope you enjoy it in Newcastle. I will have more on committees and other items later on, so I'll stop there.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just echo huge thank you to especially Amy George. Did a fabulous job running everything, but also Chief Mandela and the police, Connor Simonson and the maintenance team, all the volunteers, the community activities commissioners who helped organize and put on that event. It was just fantastic. Really had a great time. Even with the rain, we still had fun, and it brought us the rainbow, so can't complain. Yeah, welcome Kevin Anderson, our new Public Works Director. Glad you're here. And that's all I have. So next on our agenda, I'm very grateful to have with us tonight our Washington State Insurance Commissioner, Patty Cooterer. So she's gonna give us a little presentation, I believe.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for the kind invitation to come and present to you tonight. I can tell you that this has kind of taken me back. I was a city attorney for many years and represented cities and counties in litigation as well, so I know how hard you work, and I think sometimes the public doesn't necessarily appreciate that, or know about it, I should say. I think a lot of the public does appreciate it, but just know that I know what you do, and you're the closest to your constituents, and it matters a lot. So I'm here to talk to you tonight a little bit about the Office of the Insurance Commissioner and what we do and how we can partner with local governments and as well as the state government. So a little bit of background. Washington is one of 11 states that actually elects their insurance commissioner. The rest are appointed by the governor and must work through that office on insurance-related matters. We don't have to do that here in Washington, and we are also a member of the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, which is a nonprofit organization that is member-driven and member-supported. And the goal of the NAIC is to make sure that there is state-based regulation of insurance across the country and that it works for companies that cross state lines. So in fiscal year 2025, our office collected $1.022 billion in premium taxes from insurance companies, and of that amount, we sent $982.3 million to the state general fund to support K through 12 education, higher education, human services, and general government operations. We sent $40.2 million to the Washington Health Benefit Exchange account at the state treasury. The exchange sells insurance plans to Washington state consumers and to the state's Medicaid recipients. We employ 306 people in Olympia, Tumwater, Spokane, and Seattle. Our budget for the 2025-27 biennium is $114.4 million. But in addition to our core regulatory function, we also have a criminal investigations unit and employ limited licensed police officers who investigate criminal activities that involve or impact insurance in our state. We also employ our own administrative law judge who handles disputes between regulated entities and our office. And finally, our budget is not part of the state's general fund. Instead, we are funded by a surcharge on regulated entities. And as I said, we return a lot of money to the state as a result. We have two primary jobs. Our job is to protect consumers from unfair and illegal insurance practices, and we regulate the insurance industry by licensing companies and agents and brokers, reviewing insurance rates to make sure they're justified, investigating consumer complaints, and holding hearings when insurers or agents violate the law. We do not regulate the insurance that most cities and municipalities use, both liability and health. Similarly, school districts are regulated by the state risk manager as well. In addition to those responsibilities, our office also proposes legislation to the state legislature when we believe the law needs to change. And we have the authority to adopt rules to implement those laws and also to help protect consumers. So legislative priorities, one of my legislative priorities is improving how we fight insurance fraud. Nationally, insurance fraud costs $308 billion, which translates into about $900 in extra premium per person each year. After taking office, I moved our criminal investigations unit into our legal affairs division to allow for better information sharing between our limited law enforcement officers and the attorneys handling those issues. That has been, by all accounts, a huge success. And we also requested legislative approval to fund a Pierce County prosecutor dedicated to working on our fraud cases. And they recently filed their first charges under that new partnership. Why Pierce County? Because they have the second highest number of fraud cases relating to insurance in the state. They were unable to access, they were unable to help us with those cases because they simply lacked the capacity. So we asked the legislature to help us fund that capacity through our accounts. The fraud bill that we have proposed would modernize our state's insurance laws and give us the tools we need to fight the increasingly sophisticated, organized insurance fraud schemes. I have described our current statute as like we're bringing a pencil to a computer fight. It's woefully out of date, and it's time that we need to update it. The bill that we proposed to the legislature last session has been described by a national consumer fraud prevention group as a model for the country. It would reclassify certain theft cases as insurance fraud, and that change is long overdue because we're one of just a handful of states that does not have insurance fraud as a crime. We prosecute it under the theft statutes, which limits our ability to truly hold those bad actors accountable. The bill would also expand our ability to use more advanced technology to help us better fight insurance fraud in our state. While that bill did make it out of the Senate with strong bipartisan support, it unfortunately died in the House committee before cutoff. But we are definitely bringing that bill back. There's a lot of interest around that, and but with both by the public and legislators. We also proposed 2 wildfire bills, one that would have given consumers transparency about the wildfire risk scores that insurers assign to their property. We heard from many homeowners who have been canceled or non-renewed because of these scores, and they need to know what's behind them and how they can improve their scores so they can maintain their insurability. The other bill, called Strengthening Washington Homes, would create a pilot grant program to help homeowners with the costs of bringing their homes up to the standards of the Institute, the Insurance Institute Business and Home Safety Program. This is the insurance industry's gold standard. It is proven scientific methods that will help make sure your house doesn't burn down in a wildfire. And we were the first state to include a provision that said to the insurance company, it actually prohibited the insurance companies from non-renewing or canceling a consumer that actually did retrofit to those standards for wildfire risk. Both bills made it out of the Senate again with strong bipartisan support, but unfortunately stalled in the House again. They're incredibly important to consumers. We were in Medical Lake earlier this year, which had a terrible fire a few years ago, and Spokane area, and this is very top of mind for folks. And this grant program would be funded by dollars out of the insurance office account as opposed to the general fund. And these are, again, dollars that are surcharges on the insurance industry, and it made sense because in a way that program is underwriting the business model of the property casualty insurance companies. It's coming back next session, and we're hoping that we'll get that one through too. You know, state and local governments must get creative and work together. Our constituents are relying on us like never before, and that's because the federal government has been shifting responsibility to the states and local governments for natural disaster prevention and recovery, and despite the gap in our ability to fund those measures. And that means there's less funding for local governments, so we really do have to find creative solutions. And I'm talking about the cuts to FEMA in particular, and the failure to, for example, the bomb cyclone that hit a few years ago when I was a senator in my district in Bellevue. We did not receive relief for that bomb cyclone, unfortunately. That cost fell to state and local governments to bear, and the consumers to some extent as well. And we have to be better prepared. My personal orientation is prevention is the best bang for the buck, and that's why I'm supporting this wildfire grant mitigation program. There are also the BRIC grants that were in the FEMA program, the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities grants. Washington was the 5th highest user of those grants. We were investing in fortifying our infrastructure to withstand these natural disasters, and now those costs are going to come to us more. We're going to have to think about being more proactive on fortifying our infrastructures ahead of time. We traveled to Spokane County in May in advance of wildfire season, sharing our new disaster response consumer toolkits and insurance resources. I believe very strongly that part of our work at the OIC is to go out and help educate people about these things. And so we have created toolkits pre and post disaster. These toolkits are not just for consumers, we have some for local governments as well to help them prepare for a disaster, including information on new products that are coming out of the insurance industry that you might want to take a look at to help you recover in the event of a disaster. And it's not just property insurance we're talking about. We also launched the first in the country Medicare Jumpstart Toolkit last year to help our seniors and their families navigate the open enrollment process. Our statewide health insurance benefit advisors, our SHEBA program, is located in all counties. It's free, confidential, and accurate advice on Medicare, and we help seniors navigate Medicare and Medicare Advantage. And we also are taking consumer complaints about Medicare's new payment model called WISER. How many of you have heard of this program? WISER is a pilot program from the federal government that, as I like to say, Washington was one of 6 states that were voluntold to participate. And that program requires prior authorization now for traditional Medicare procedures. Certain procedures in traditional Medicare that were not subject to prior authorization before. We have heard a lot of complaints from people around the state about this. And I'd like to know from your constituents if they've had a bad experience with this program as well. And we're also currently working on a study on how insurers use credit score history and other rating factors so that we can ensure that they're not unfairly discriminating against people. And that study is due to the legislature in June of 2027. So the best way to update, to stay up to date with what we're doing, our resources, our legislation, is to take a look at our newly designed website, award-winning website, I might add, at insurance.wa.gov. Now that was a lot in a short amount of time, but feel free to reach out to us anytime with questions. We're here to partner with you and be a resource whenever you need that. But in the meantime, if you have any questions right now, I'm also happy to answer them. But thank you again so much for your gracious invitation. This is what we want to do, is get out in community and talk to folks. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, Councilmember Blakely?
Thank you so much, Commissioner, for coming. We had a brief conversation prior to our meeting getting underway, and one of the questions I asked you is how your office is responding to the tax credits that have been removed in our tool belt here to help people afford medical insurance. I know more of the burden for medical costs are falling more on the states, and wondering what you are doing to
Yeah,
handle
that
this
is-
issue.
It's an excellent question. We've been monitoring this for quite some time. So first of all, the enhanced premium tax credits help people buy coverage on the individual market. And the Affordable Care Act, in combination with Washington State being one of the first states to open up a state-based exchange, and those enhanced premium tax credits, enabled the state of Washington to go from a 15% uninsured rate for health care down to below 5% for the first time. And that helps stabilize health care premiums, quite frankly, because now you have stronger, healthier people who can afford health care, and they're in the market. It brings down the utilization rates. Unfortunately, and this was an issue that the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, that's 56 of us, all 50 states and the 6 territories, we were united in asking Congress to extend those enhanced premium tax credits. It was a quote-unquote pilot program, but the data was incredibly compelling that it was highly successful at doing what it was designed to do, which is to bring younger, healthier people into the health insurance market. So unfortunately, Congress did not pass those enhanced premium tax credits. We worked with the state-based exchange, the Health Benefit Exchange, to promulgate an emergency rule that we have since made permanent to help make certain plans more in reach for people. In other words, to hopefully entice them to stay purchasing insurance off our state-based exchange. And at the time when the credits expired, we were expecting about 80,000 people to drop coverage, but with that emergency rule, we actually cut that in half to about 40,000. But that's still 40,000 people who self-selected out of the market. And again, these are going to be your stronger, healthier people who are now, when they do get sick, will go to the emergency room, which is uncompensated care if you're uninsured, and drives everybody's health care costs up. It's a bad idea all the way around. So we're hoping that we can get them reestablished. But we're also working, the insurance commissioner sits on the Universal Healthcare Commission. And we are also working with the Universal Healthcare Commission right now on a concept of universal primary care and behavioral health. And the idea behind this is that the research is abundantly clear that when we use more primary care, we bring costs down overall, which can also have an impact of keeping healthcare costs affordable. So we're working on that as well. So it's kind of, in tandem. There's a lot of things that we're working on at the Office of the Insurance Commissioner to try and help bring these costs down. But we do need a federal partner in doing that. And unfortunately, they did not pass those last year. Thank you.
So one final comment. So what I hear you saying, what we can do is talk to our federal representatives and encourage them to bring back those tax credits.
Yes.
And sharing the data that you have presented today, which is really profound. And then also legislative priorities that you have outlined. Something else that perhaps that we could do also is talk to our legislators and help educate them on these.
Absolutely. They are very strong consumer protection bills, and thank you for that. And we welcome your input. And, you can stay abreast of those pieces of legislation too by just going on our website and signing up, and we can actually give you alerts what's happening with the bill when it's in hearing and things like that. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Cooter. I think, I dare say ever, but potentially first ever statewide elected to come speak to Newcastle City Council, so we appreciate it.
It's an honor.
Yeah, kind of similar vein. Actually, I hear from a lot of my peers and myself as well care about this. The more acutely with the healthcare, I was curious if you could speak to prescription drug cost and what your office, what control your office has to protect consumers from health insurance plans not covering that, as well as potentially reducing the cost. I've never paid less than $65 a month for my prescription drugs that I need to take, and over the course of my entire adult life, and I know a lot of other younger folks have that same sort of struggle as well.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's an enormous problem. I can tell you that the health carriers, when they have put in their rate proposals to us, they cite those costs as one of the factors, right? In addition to the federal uncertainty and utilization rates going up and things like that. So it is a big problem. You know, our country has the most complicated drug cost system, right? I mean, in other countries, it's pharmaceutical company sells to pharmacist, sells to patient. We have pharmacy benefit managers, and when I was in the legislature, I ended up dropping a bill that took 7 years to get passed. My second co-sponsor on that bill was Republican Senator Shelley Short from Okanagan County. We were lockstep on that bill because we know how much cost is generated by the use of pharmacy benefit managers. And the bill grew over those 7 years. I'm sure they wish we would have passed one the first time and we would have ended, but as luck would have it, it ended up becoming a much bigger thing. And it gave the insurance commissioner's office the ability to look under the hood at their pricing practices, right? Because they effectively operate like Enron. They take their money on the spread and they keep confidential contracts. And so you don't necessarily know what, you know, the pharmacy benefit manager buys the drug from the pharmaceutical company for, and then turns around and sells it to an employer plan. And it could be upcharged 500%. They would never know. So we want to take a look at that. We also gave pharmacists who were really quite, especially in rural areas, were really getting hit hard by how pharmacy benefit managers were utilizing mail order to the point where they were involuntarily enrolling people in mail order. And I know that's a fact because they did it to me. That was a mistake, as they found out, but they did it to me before I was even in the legislature. And it took a lot of my time and a threatening letter from them that they were going to send me to collections before we got it all ironed out. And I got out of mail order. I'm not against mail order. If you want to do it, fine. Not always cheaper. They don't tell you that, right? They don't tell you when you go. We had to pass a law in Washington that said to the pharmacy benefit managers that a pharmacist was now allowed to tell you when you go in that it's cheaper for you not to use your insurance and pay cash because it's 84 cents versus that $20 copay. And they would take the difference between the 84 cents and the $20 copay. That would be their profit. So we are looking at them much more closely. We've already started allowing for pharmacists to appeal these costs. So we're trying to shed light on what they do to bring those drug costs down. This is a lot of information, but I'm also trying to say that a lot of this falls within the legislature's purview. We did pass a law when I was in the legislature to cap insulin charges at $35 a month. So things like that may have to happen when it comes to other drugs. But drug costs are an enormous problem, and until we take the complexity out of the system, we're going to continue to see this spiral, unfortunately.
Thank you so much for coming. I still remember through our conversation, I invited you. I said that we'd like to have you to present if you are available. You were so graciously said yes. And so here you are as the first, our state commissioner presenting at our city hall for our community and our council. So for me, it's really educational and really, I guess we all face this problem. I want to see how we can support for the next legislation and speak up and inform our federal reps to see, because it really, really matters to everyone, not just like most vulnerable, because we are all reaching that age eventually. Yeah, thank you so much again.
Thank you, and thank you again for the kind invitation. Have a good night.
Thank you, Commissioner. I love your passion for this, for what you do. So thank you for all that you do. All right, next on our agenda is we get to hear the results of our community survey. So I'll turn it over to ETC Institute.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, City Manager, members of the council. It's a pleasure to be here again. It's been a few years since I think I've been able to present in person here, but I think we presented last time virtually potentially, or maybe it was kind of a tough council session, I think, in terms of timing to get the presentation in. And I know you've had a long meeting already. In terms of timing, I want to try to make sure I expedite things. But if you have any questions, let me know. My name's Ryan Murray. I'm the Director of Community Research here at ETC Institute. And I am probably going to pass through these a couple of times here. Doesn't seem to be working. Okay. Okay, yeah, so just a little bit about ETC Institute. We've done your survey 4 times now, but we're the nation's leader in market research for government organizations. We do this type of thing nationally. We're currently working in Shoreline, but we've worked for many communities across the area here, including Mercer Island, Kenmore, and a few others. But we do work not only regionally, but also nationally and internationally to a degree. We've been around for about 40 years. Our mission is really to help you all make better decisions through sound data. And so through statistically valid surveys, we can help inform our clients, and then they can make well-informed or more well-informed decisions. If we go to our next slide, one of the major things that I always feel like I have a responsibility of doing before I present is to give you a little bit of background or purpose. The reason I like to do that is because I sit behind the dais in my own city. I'm a city council member in a community of about 6,500 people, so about half or a little more than half of the size of Newcastle. But I have some of the same perceptions or some of the same ability to see things through your lens. In that other instance, I've been at ETC Institute for about 20 years. So I see this type of data day in and day out. This is the 4th time I've seen your community survey results. And I see these from across the country. So it builds this kind of unique lens that I have in which I kind of interpret the results. And the reason I like to let everybody know that is because you all are Newcastle experts. So when you see things, you're going to have different context, different intuition, and different perceptions of what the results are telling you. And I just want to make sure that everybody kind of understands that mine is a unique lens from which I review everything. In addition to that, the purpose of the survey is to help you all make better decisions, as I mentioned, but at the end of the day, it's a purpose-driven survey. We're trying to develop priorities for improvement through specific design features in the survey instrument. So starting back many years ago, we introduced important satisfaction analysis into the survey. It is a satisfaction followed by a forced ranking question, which helps us develop priorities for various departments, or overall is what we'll look at tonight. But within your report, you'll see a few additional important satisfaction analysis tables. We want to compare your performance over time, but also to national and regional benchmarks, and we'll see some of that this evening as well. And one of the biggest things in terms of methodology is how we conduct the survey. So 407 surveys doesn't sound like a lot when we scatter them across the entire city, as you can see on the map. But when you use random sampling and ensure that each and every household across the city's limit has an equal opportunity of being selected and there's no bias in that selection, and then we return results that accurately portray the community both geographically and demographically, we can really take a smaller sample of surveys from a larger community and apply those results to the broader population. Now, as the researcher, there's a margin of error on those results, and the margin of error is about 4.7%. I think it's in the prior slide, and it just escapes me right now. It is 4.8%, excuse me. I will use 5% for the most part for the presentation this evening. Anything that I've identified as significant differences are significant to that decimal point. And what that really tells us is that year-over-year ratings, we had 414 completed surveys last time, which gives us approximately the same margin of error. Anything that escapes the 5% margin of error tells us there's a true and actual difference in the perceptions of the respondents. So there's a true and actual difference, maybe citywide, and we'll see a lot of good news in this year's survey results, which is really positive. But that also suggests that there's a true and actual difference between your results in your city compared to national and regional averages. And so we'll look at some of that as well. And if we go to our next slide, we'll see that the results are demographically and geographically diverse, just as the community is. And so we want to try to return those results just as they exist in the community. And if we go to our next slide, and actually we'll skip forward. Oh, nope, excuse me, we'll stay on this one for just a moment. This is just kind of some of those keynotes. So I'm going to continue to drone on for probably 12 to 15 more minutes. I hope that if you take away nothing else from me tonight, that you take away these 3 bullet points. Overall, perceptions are extremely high in the community. Overall ratings of the community as a place to live and raise children are extremely high. Perceptions are very high, and that blends in with your benchmarking. When we talk about comparative advantages, the city's in a very advantageous position when we look at national and regional benchmarks. When we talk about priorities for improvement, that 3rd bullet, I really want to stress that high-performing organizations share a lot of these same priorities when it comes to development and flow of traffic. Usually streets will pop up on this list too as a higher opportunity for improvement. I believe in years past those have been high priorities, but it seems like there's been actually a kind of a shift in perceptions around our streets. So they're not quite as important as they had been in the past, and satisfaction has actually increased slightly on those as well. So now if we go forward 2 slides, we'll pass a perception slide and we'll jump right into the results. I want to show a lot of trends since we've got nice trend lines all the way from 2026 through 2019. We did skip our 2020 survey here just for kind of ease of reading here. But really what I want to highlight is just how we've seen an upward trend in overall perceptions of the community and the direction that they're heading. If we head to our next slide, we'll rate the job that City of Newcastle does overall, and we can see a nearly significant difference in the overall percentage of excellent ratings. Go to our next slide. We'll talk about how many services that we're providing. And this is an interesting question that we don't ask in a lot of communities, but what we found is that overall respondents are continuing to tell us that overall we're providing generally the right amount of services with a slight increase in that too few services. And that is just barely significant there. So it's about a 4.8% increase. When we go to the next slide, we'll see community livability. I've highlighted a significant increase there, your overall feeling of safety in the community, which was down quite a bit in 2024, but that's something we saw nationally across the board. And you can see that consistency is really the name of the game for Newcastle in this year's survey between 24 and 26. That has not been the case for most of our clients. Most of our clients have seen a steady decline since 2020. It has been it's been a bummer, I mean, to be very honest with council, to present some of these results over the last couple of years. And it's really great and positive to be here and be able to present positive results because we're just not seeing this type of consistency. And if we go forward go forward 1 slide, we'll see that when we rate the overall quality of life in the city of Newcastle, everybody's feeling generally positive. So I showed you the dot map earlier, but what I like to do is illustrate with a couple of the maps from the appendix that we shared. And what we do with these is based on each one of these census block groups in the community, we're able to shade based on the mean rating what that general perception or opinion is in each one of those areas. And it's a really positive sign to see straight dark blue or very satisfied ratings as a mean across the entire city. Moving on to the overall ratings of the City of Newcastle, we have several significant differences, including the local police protection, customer service, efforts to sustain environmental quality. And a couple of the most noteworthy ones are actually at the bottom where we have opportunities for improvement. Where we see flow of traffic and congestion management, we see a significant increase, almost 10 percentage points. And we see about a 10 percentage point shift in the efforts to regulate development in the community. It's really positive signs that respondents are responding positively in terms of satisfaction for these items. And while they remain very important to most respondents throughout the area, it seems that the community is doing a really good job of responding, which is really key. It's kind of that perception. So we ask respondents to give us their best shot in terms of the rating a lot of these services. If we go to our 2 slides forward, we'll see trends. We're going to compare your results specifically to 2024. And there were 75 areas that were directly comparable between the 2 surveys. Of the areas that were comparable, we saw a positive increase in 75% of those, and 20 of those areas saw a significant increase, about a quarter of them. And that is exceeding, again, that 4.8% margin of error. If we go forward to our next slide, we'll see some of the largest increases in satisfaction from 2024. And what I really wanted to do is just highlight a few of these for you all. And I wanted to include the actual percentages out to the right so you could see just how far and above we are that margin of error. Overall feeling of safety, preparedness for emergencies, all the way down to the city's efforts to regulate development, which is plus 9.9 percentage points. If we go to our next slide, we'll see some of the largest decreases in satisfaction. These are somewhat related to development purposes, ease of obtaining permits, which not a lot of residents had a firsthand opinion of, high levels of don't know responses, but city efforts to correct and prevent water pollution, frequency of street sweeping, which is kind of one of those visible services that kind of floats around with street condition as well as traffic. And then enforcement of construction codes and permit requirements also saw that kind of decrease. Just kind of keeping in mind, not every resident has those construction-specific instances or uses with the city, and a lot of folks are just, again, trying to provide a response, although neutral responses and don't know responses are typically pretty high in those areas. If we go forward 2 more slides, we'll see the overall benchmarking, national and regional benchmarking. There were about 40 areas or 38 that were comparable between our national and regional benchmarks, which we actually run community surveys across the country, and we also do it regionally in Washington. Regionally on the West Coast, which is our Northwest region. It's Washington, Oregon, Montana, Idaho, and then just a few or a handful of folks from Alaska and Hawaii. When we look on the next slide, we'll see some of those significant differences. The flow of traffic is significantly higher than both of our regional and national averages, but it's our top priority for improvement. And so the benchmarking can help us provide a lot of context to really what those ratings are telling us, where we really stand in terms of some of those ratings compared to some of our peers, and what those priorities are really saying to us internally. So for me as the consultant, it's a primary priority of most high-performing organizations. In your particular area, traffic flow and congestion management is definitely an opportunity for improvement. But it's one of those instances where when you're providing relatively high levels of services across the board, it's one of the kind of lower hanging fruit items that you can usually pick from. If we go to our next slide, we'll see some of those national benchmarking highlights again. This is one that I really wanted you all to see. The full report has a full benchmarking section. It's got charts and graphs in it, but this is really a good look at how far and above we are in terms of maintenance as a place to raise children, communication, police services, conditions of sidewalks, maintenance of streets, 28.8% points above. And when we talk about some of our high opportunities for improvement, we're looking at development purposes and things like that, and we see how well we're planning for growth kind of below that national average. If we look at our next slide, we'll see Northwest regional benchmarking. We see ease of transportation options. This is our only significant decrease or significant change in terms of where we present ourselves compared to regional benchmarks. But we see a lot of the same items over to the left, including overall feeling of safety, place to raise to children, and some of those really high quality feelings of safety or public safety or perceptions of the community type results. Excuse me. If we go to our next slide, opportunities for improvement. I mentioned this earlier. The important satisfaction analysis is a tool that we use to really highlight service areas that could use improvement or will have a dramatic increase or tug or pull on overall satisfaction moving forward. And basically the analysis is suggesting that if we're able to make an increase in overall satisfaction, relative importance will come down, and then we should increase overall perceptions of the community and the delivery of our services overall. When we look at the 2 areas towards the top, those are 2 highest opportunities for improvement. There are 2 areas where there was relatively low satisfaction, but relatively high importance ratings. You'll see city parks, trails, and open space and local police protection are also really important services, but those services receive such high levels of satisfaction that even moving the needle in terms of satisfaction in those areas is unlikely to kind of make waves throughout the delivery of our services. But if we go to our next slide, we'll see a table. And we have these tables not only for the overall city services, but for a variety of other services in the report. And you'll see efforts to regulate development, flow of traffic as our high opportunities for improvement. Everything else received such high satisfaction ratings or relatively low importance rankings that they're not considered opportunities for improvement at this time. Go to our next slide. Well, I wanted to show a few more maps as it relates to perceptions. The maps are relatively dark blue. There's not a lot of changes between them. But when we look at some of our regulation of development, we see that there's more neutral ratings throughout the community. If we go to our next slide, we'll actually see the traffic flow item. We actually see relatively high levels of satisfaction there, but there are a couple of areas of neutral again. And if we go to our next slide, I think we're going to get into additional findings, which is communication findings for the most part. And when we asked respondents where they get their information, a majority of them indicated that they're getting it from that city e-newsletter or the Newscastle newsletter. The best part about this is that we ask a follow-up question from respondents to say, what is your most preferred source of information? And that item hit by more than 20 percentage points as the top item. It says a lot about the quality of that communication and how much residents really depend on that. Move forward, we'll see trends on communication, and we can just see a lot of positivity here. Communication along with customer service are kind of brand loyalty departments in terms of city governance. They're areas where we can really impress upon perceptions in terms of our residents who contact us or just relaying information to them. So it's really great to see that we've seen massive increases in almost every single one of these areas. And with that, I'll summarize. So we continue to deliver very high quality of services overall. We compare very favorably to our national and regional benchmarks. Public safety, parks, community appearance remain your key strengths, as do some of those quality of life ratings. It's a place to raise children, it's a place to live, and you perform well above those national and regional benchmarkings in those areas. We've got a couple of opportunities for improvement, which include the overall development item, which is really in the eye of the beholder, as well as traffic flow, which can be a common item for high-performing organizations. With that, I'm gonna get my fan back out. For some reason, I'm just really burning up here, and I will take any questions. Anything I can't answer tonight, I'll get a written response back to staff.
Thank you. What a great presentation. Councilmember Villasenor.
Just to clarify, those benchmarks are against communities of the same size, essentially, right? Or are we getting compared, like how far, like outside of our lane are we getting compared to?
Yeah, those are probably the more high-level 35,000-foot view benchmarks. We could easily take a portion of communities across the country that we've done surveys with, and we could look at population sizes if that'd be something council would like to do.
I just know that we seem strong in the areas that I think quote-unquote small towns should be strong in, which is good, which makes me feel good. But I was just wondering if that benchmark really is against, like communities of similar size. You're not comparing us to New York City or whatever, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and there's probably some respondents from Dallas and from San Antonio, LA, things like that, maybe even Seattle. What we'll do, and this is a little bit of a higher look, not a higher, but a little bit more of a hard look at the results. We'll actually take results from people that we've surveyed, so communities that have actually contracted with us to do the same survey work. And we'll look at similarly sized communities nationwide. I'll provide a list to staff to see maybe what doesn't work or what's too far out of that range in terms of population, and we can develop a new average for you, and we can present the same, most of the same findings depending on who asked all those questions. And what it really is a performance range. And so it's actually now telling you, of communities that regularly do this type of survey, how are we performing against those communities? And so it's a much higher level of benchmarking. We do one for our Kansas City Metro partners where we do just about everybody in our 3-county region. So it's a really nice benchmark because it's local, but it is definitely the hardest benchmark out there to kind of meet or exceed expectations in. It's a great question because you're highlighting this idea that, hey, we're a small town and we're performing very well in some of these areas. Traffic flow in your part of the community where you live here is tough because it's not just managed by the city, but also by the county and by the state and by all these other highways that you have running through. So that's a supremely difficult item. I'm sure you'll perform very well against a lot of those other metrics too. Thank you.
Councilmember Jacobs.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I thought it was excellent. I have to say, I was super pleasantly surprised at how well the survey showed that contrary to comments that have been made in this chamber recently, this is a great place to live. Our residents enjoy living here. I think the safety of the community is well represented in the survey. I think the police department and fire are doing an awesome job. I'm not sure, we've got a lot to complain about in the city based on what I read in this. I mean, I'm sure there's improvements to make. Traffic is traffic and some of the things that we can't do anything about. But I would say overall the survey was outstanding, and I think our residents overall are pretty happy to be in Newcastle.
Agreed.
Awesome presentation, thank you. I just have a question for smaller cities like our size. I noticed for the future growth, right?
Yeah.
either neutral or like decrease. Is that very common? Like a city our size, the survey result, I mean, comparing to other similar sized cities?
Yep, great question, which I think folds into Councilmember Jacobs' comment as well. As a council member, it's really difficult, I think, to disassociate from what we hear here in chambers, especially if we have a well-organized or well-grouped group of people that want to come in and present a message. What the survey does an excellent job of is cutting through some of that noise that you all are hearing and gives you this aggregate perception of what that, grab a random Newcastle resident off the street, what would they tell us? This is very close to what they tell us. In terms of small communities and what happens to some of these results is as you begin to make changes or as you begin to maybe even hint at making changes. I know in the strategic planning discussion, there was a lot of downtown talk. Downtown master plans, downtown community or strategic plans can really, I'll air quote, ruffle feathers in terms of its change. And change can always be in the eye of the beholder to push maybe a neutral response or maybe even a dissatisfied response if the type of development is against maybe that historical value that you personally think Newcastle has, or if maybe some of the development opportunities that council's even discussing go against your personal beliefs, it could really cause you to have kind of a major shift in perceptions in some of these areas. So I think small towns more than large communities like Dallas, like Kansas City, Missouri, or Los Angeles have much more volatility in that particular item because even a small development change can have massive impacts on a large proportion of your population. Whereas if we're to even, do a neighborhood redevelopment in Dallas, we might not even notice a shift in those responses in that census block group because the population is so large. So that's a great point to point out that sometimes the smaller the community, the more volatile small changes in these results can be because of how impacted such a large number of people are potentially. Yep, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you so much. I guess, I think this might be putting the city staff on the spot too much, but I guess I would just be curious with the slide 29, looking at the negative trends. It's very specific items like permits for home remodels, city efforts to prevent water pollution, frequency of street sweeping. I guess I would just be curious, like, have we changed practices for any of those items between 2024 and 2026? I think number 2, variety of number of businesses in downtown, I suspect that's, people see it's visibly losing a business. I know it's something we're addressing as a council. Are there any of those that jump out to city staff as like we changed something we were doing that relates to one of these? And if that's, you want to come back with an answer later, that's fine too.
Happy to hear maybe more, maybe Director Fitzgibbons has thoughts, but maybe we'd want to come back with those just because I think with the areas for improvement, I think a lot of them are maybe perceptions about development, but also between 2024 and 2026, the development that's occurred and that may be occurring maybe plays into that a little bit just from the standpoint of volume. And so I think that plays a little bit. When we went through the results with Ryan before getting ready to come to council, I wasn't overly surprised necessarily, just because when you look at the permit volume over the last 2 years, it's been some of the largest that we've ever had, where leading up to 24, it was very low. And so you don't have the opportunities for people to be upset about their third review on a permit and things like that when you don't have as much permit activity.
Sorry, he was referencing slide 16.
Yeah.
He was looking at the packet saying page 29.
And one of the things, if you don't mind, so the overall margin of error for the survey is about 4.8%. Some questions in the survey, and we use that as kind of an overarching guidepost. Some questions in the survey have much higher levels of don't know responses, and I wanted to mention that around development and around that water one. And the primary reason for that is only 60% of our 407 respondents actually responded to that question, which means that at like a 5.6% change or right around that, yeah, I think it was 5.6%. You may not be hitting that significance mark in that specific item. And there might be other instances of this, but there's a tabular data section in our report that'll include those don't knows. And anytime we see like a more than a quarter, it's over 100 people didn't respond, which you could easily say, get 100 people in a room, you might have 25 that would just not have any idea there. Neutral ratings aren't necessarily elevated on that item, but it definitely is probably a symptom of elevated don't know responses for that specific item, not everybody having a response.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really helpful, and thank you, City Manager. I think the, just my thought process was like for how we address water pollution and frequency of street sweeping as a city. I don't know this for certain, but my guess would be we probably haven't changed our practices in the last 2 years, right? So for me, I'm thinking of that, does that mean that's an opportunity for community engagement on a topic like that? And you talking about a high level of don't know responses. It's just good to know like what people might not be as more familiar with.
Yeah.
Appreciate kind of using that lens with the data as well.
And some of those same items around your development, even though City Manager mentioned that we have many more permits, there still is a high level of don't know for that. And it's a perception thing, so we would say, the don't knows are being honest with us, telling us they don't know. But I have a feeling, based on my time behind the dais, that a lot of people are providing opinions, even though there might not be firsthand experience. And so just always kind of take that with a grain of salt. One thing I always tell councils when we get into these types of discussions is that the survey is usually one piece in this larger engagement puzzle. I heard one of the other council members earlier mention engaging businesses. Super hard thing to do. Best of luck to the city, because it's just so difficult to get those folks on a time frame that works. But even engaging residents can be very difficult, especially if we want to see new faces. And so just always kind of thinking about the survey as putting it in its rightful place. It's a great overall decision-making tool. It can really help point us in a certain direction, but it should never be that end-all be-all engagement piece. You all are on the streets, you all have neighbors, you're hearing things in the community. All of that, along with staff intuition, is always going to build that larger picture of kind of that data that's going to help us inform decision-making and then progress. So,
Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much. It's
Thank you all so much.
really, really helpful.
yeah, thank you. It's such a pleasure. And Scott, I'll get that stuff over to you. And if y'all need anything else, just let the city manager or Amy know, and I'll be happy to get it back to you. So thank you all so much. Have a great meeting.
Thanks. Sorry, we only can have 2 microphones on tonight for some reason, so I'm just trying to, when you're done speaking, please try to remember to turn off your microphones in between. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Are there any council committee reports? Councilmember Frost Blakely.
Yes. So, the Finance Committee met on June 20, oh no, not June. We met last week. I have the wrong agenda. And we were speaking about fiscally, we're in very good shape, and discussing how to monetize City Hall has been a great source of conversation during our meetings. Looking for ways that we can make sure that every ounce of this space is utilized. And a similar conversation held in the Business and Economic Development Committee meeting, which Deputy Mayor will be addressing here. So common themes in 2 committees, but I can report the Finance Committee felt that our fiscal house was in very good, strong shape.
Great. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. Economic Community Development Committee met on June 24th. I sent a letter that Director Fitzgibbon worked on, and I was happy to sign. Ed walked in at just the right time, because I sent that letter to the Arts Council for their partnership with us on the wayfinding signs, which we're very excited about, to incorporate some artwork and engage the community. So I was happy to send that off to them. Additionally, on the way of finding signs, we got additional quotes that were much higher than previous quotes, so that has affirmed our decision to stick with the first quote we got and potentially have a line for a cheaper installation process, however. And then the rest of the time we spent talking about what will largely be encompassed by item 12.2. So I'll defer that to later in the meeting. And then our next meeting will be July 22nd at 4:30 p.m. And then police, fire, and emergency management, our next meeting will be July 20th at 5:30 p.m., both in the front conference room.
Councilmember Burford?
Yeah. Community Engagement Commission committee, we met as scheduled. We talk about the proclamations by month. We're going to finalize later. Tomorrow, our committee will meet again at the big conference room. We are going to have CDC chair and members who will be meeting jointly with us tomorrow.
Any other, I know the ad hoc committee to review our rules has met, and we're reviewing everything and working through that process. Any other council committees? Okay, regional committees? No?
Just that Councilmember Buford and I will be with the East Side Transportation Partnership meeting this Friday morning. So we'll report back at our next city council meeting.
Awesome. We do have a written report from the Community Activities Commission in our packet tonight. Is anybody presenting on that, or? Okay, I'll come back. Are there any liaisons, council liaisons that want to speak to either the commission meeting?
Just, we had the Planning Commission regular meeting on Wednesday, June 24th. Quite a good meeting. There was discussion on temporary use code discussion and small cell wireless code discussion as well, which is a very exciting topic. That has been, when I was serving on the Planning Commission, we were discussing this as well. And that is always held the fourth week, Wednesday, the fourth week of every month, and the public is certainly welcome.
Okay, well, the written report from the Community Activities Commission is in our agenda packet. And we will move on to our city manager report.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to introduce our new staff. So Kevin Anderson, our new Public Works Director, who's here with us, started yesterday, as well as Chris Doherty, who is our new Events and Rec Coordinator. And so we're super excited for them to be here and get started. Kevin, if you're willing, if you want to introduce yourself briefly and where you're coming from.
Sure, thank you. I've been a Public Works Director for 2 cities in Washington State for the last 11 years. And before that, I was a consulting civil engineer. One of the reasons I tell my friends why I switched sides was it seemed like all my clients who were Public Works Directors were having a lot more fun than me, so I decided to. And I also enjoy, rather than being a hired gun, I enjoy serving a community. And so that's really, really a good fit for me. My last job was at Clyde Hill, and I did that for a couple of years. Before that, I was a Public Works Director for the city of Airway Heights in Eastern Washington. So similar size to Newcastle, quite a bit different, but it was a really great learning experience for me. And you guys have a great staff here, and I'm really excited to be part of it. Thanks.
Thanks, Kevin. You guys will get to know Chris as well. I'm sure you'll be similarly impressed with her. I do want to just call attention, if you get a chance, drive down 76th Street. It's been poured, and so there's a sidewalk there, so go take a look. We're very excited about that. And then I just want to add my 4th of July thank yous to everybody that provided them earlier. Really Amy is fantastic, and Chris has big shoes to fill, but she'll have a great trainer as well. And then Connor and his crew, as well as Chief Mandela, and getting both his staff there, but as well as the explorers that come and volunteer for us, which the numbers that they provide really helps the event go. And so thankful for that, thankful for the CNC as well as the city council members showing up to man booths and answer questions. I was able to be there mostly just with my family, which was awesome. And so I do want to just mention, and just for, I was super pleasantly, this is the first time I've walked out with the community as they walk out after the event. And so I always just park at City Hall and we walk down. And so I was walking back up 129th with everyone else. And I was super impressed with the community as to how many walked there. They weren't walking back to vehicles, they were walking home, which was awesome. So I just wanted to mention that. And then I'll just plug with the 4th of July event over, the first concert is July 22nd. And so come out for that. That's all I got.
Thank you. Any questions for the city manager? We do have Chair Sticks here. I think you stepped out. Did you want to say anything in addition to your written report that's in our agenda packet? Great.
Sorry about that. I walked out for 1 second thinking I had a couple minutes, and I missed my opportunity. So thank you, Council, for having me tonight. My name's Nathan Sticks. I'm the chair of the Community Activities Commission. I'm honored to be here tonight to present our report for the month of June. Because I've not been able to present this year, I thought I'd give you guys an overview of every meeting we've had year to date. And I'm just kidding. First, I'd like to thank the council for the America 250 proclamation. Proud to see our city support this important history of our country. Second, wasn't that fireworks fantastic? I thought it was a great event, and the drizzle didn't seem to keep many people away. I do want to publicly thank Amy, the Public Works crew, Newcastle Police, City Council who attended, and City Commissioners for their participation. Great support. A huge thank you to all the food vendors, the pioneers. I thought did a great performance, and we better get them again next year. And of course, the fireworks vendor, Alpha Pyrotechnics, I think did a great job with the fireworks this year. And a special shout out to our Commissioner Van Atta for creating the opening message and how she incorporated America 250 into that message, and then she created the whole playlist, so I thought she did a fantastic job. Seriously, I do want to thank Amy George for her service to the Community Activities Commission. We owe her a debt of gratitude. We're excited to get Chris in the new position, but Amy has done nothing but provide the highest level of service to the commission, and everything we do success-wise is because of her. So Amy, behind that monitor, thank you. I'd also like to thank Councilmember Jacobs for his support being the liaison to the commission. So thank you, Andy. And I'm just going to quickly go over a couple highlights here. And Commissioner Galzerian has already left, but I wanted to give her a big thank you. And Commissioners Van Atta and Kretzinger for a great Pride event that they put on last month. Sponsorships, Commissioner Flash, Lee, and myself had a goal this year to raise $50,000. We raised $49,500, so we got really close. I will say I'm disappointed to announce that the golf club at Newcastle, for the first time ever, decided not to contribute this year. But Coal Creek Utility, Regency Newcastle, and Sona Aesthetics came in again as platinum sponsors. So we gained with some new bigger sponsors, and a couple of new additions to our surprise. King County Parks sponsored this year. And that was, I think, in part, they reached out to Amy. So that was a nice new addition. I'd also like to give recognition to our Commissioner Van Atta for receiving the Tony Ventrella Spirit of Newcastle Award at the Chamber Diamond Awards. Kim also recently spoke at the Jim Price Memorial at Lake Bourne Park. And if you haven't noticed, Kim can pretty much be found all over the city of Newcastle contributing. So thank you, Kim. And second but last, I do want to just acknowledge that America 250 is a very important celebration this year for our country, and your commission is doing everything in its power to incorporate that into all of our events. You'll be seeing it in the concerts that are coming up, and especially at Newcastle Days. We'll have some special things happening there. And lastly, I want to congratulate and thank Commissioner Traeger, who was here, but he's also left, for creating a community engagement subcommittee at the beginning of the year. We are having our first meeting with Joint Council, the CEC, Community Engagement Council or Committee, tomorrow morning. So I'm excited to get our two committees together and see what we can do to continue that engagement. So, and that's it. Any questions for me?
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry I was late.
You're fine. Okay, moving on to our consent agenda. These items are considered routine and are approved with one motion unless a council member requests that an item be removed or for separate discussion. So are there any items council would like removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, the consent agenda is approved as presented. We do not have any public hearings tonight. There's no unfinished business, so now we are on to general business. Item 12.1, discussion of the draft 6-year surface water management or SWIM capital improvement program.
Hello everybody, thank you for being here. My name is Axton Hughes. I'm the surface water specialist with the City of Newcastle. Before I get started, Deputy Mayor Charbonneau, I just wanted to address your question to the community survey. We have not had changes to the sweeping schedule, and we've had some slight programmatic changes in terms of preventing surface water pollution because we've entered a new permit cycle. But there's small community engagement type permit requirements, so it's fairly minimal, but there has been a slight positive change in that direction. So today I'll be talking about the 2027 to 2032 Surface Water Management Capital Improvement Projects Plan. And I'm filling in for Brian Miller, who just retired, so congrats to Brian too. You'll see, oh, I've got my slide right here. So this here is an excerpt from our capital improvement plan. This is a plan that's developed by one of our contracted engineers that provides a 10-year framework for capital improvement projects. It informs our SWIM fees and other policy and operations and maintenance aspects. It's updated every 6 to 10 years, and we're currently in our update year. So we're working with our engineer to have the plan ready for 2027. And you'll see this in Exhibit 3 of your meeting packet. So here is our adopted 2026 SWIM capital budget. This is our 6-year fund forecast. You'll see in 2027, we have some pretty notable expenditures or money that we've budgeted towards 2027, particularly in capital grants. That's towards our project S17, the railroad embankment removal, and that's our largest SWIM project, which is why we have those funds allocated there. We have some minor changes to the schedule from our 2026 SWIM capital budget. Project S38 is our stormwater conveyance rehabilitation program and involves CCTV of stormwater pipes to identify and replace failing or aging infrastructure. So we're in phase 4 of the condition assessment, which is the CCTV portion. And we've had to push back some of our schedule a little bit because we didn't adequately plan for traffic control and flagging in certain high traffic intersections and roads. So we had to push some of those tasks back to next year and rearrange some portions of phase 5 through 10 to this year. So we're still on schedule and we haven't had any budget changes. And in terms of changes to the, or financial changes to our SWIM capital budget, the Project S17, our railroad embankment dam, the cost has decreased, it says increased, but it should say decreased, from 4.9 million to about 4.7 million. And this is, our construction costs have actually increased about $20,000 in our most recent cost estimate, but the reduction in cost comes from the fact that the 4.9 million figure had a had a bit of an overestimation for inflation. In terms of our 6-year total, we've actually had a reduction in planned expenditures of about 11%. This is largely also procedural and doesn't reflect a reduction in costs. We ended up removing the transportation CIP contribution from the 6-year capital budget to reflect reality because we haven't actually received contributions from transportation for our SWIM projects. So I'll talk a little bit about our SWIM capital improvement project funding. We have several $1 million secured for S17 construction, which we have planned for summer of 2027. We have about $3.25 million from King County Flood Control District, and that's in the fiscal years 22 through 24 grants. And then we have also received a grant from FEMA because S17, the railroad embankment, is a high hazard dam. So we received $2.5 million from FEMA, and just this spring we applied for another $750,000 from the King County Flood Control District. I actually just gave a tour to the grant manager last week, so we'll be hopefully hearing back from them this fall in terms of the awards. You'll see here the draft 2027 to 2032 SWIM CIP. And I'm going to flip back and forth just a little bit between this and the previous years to show the how we removed the transportation CIP contribution, which constituted about a $1 million change from last year's draft plan. And with that, I think that covers it. And we'll take questions.
Thank you. Any questions? I guess my question is, what are you hoping to get from us tonight? What's our goal?
Well, I hope that we can approve our SWIM CIP plan, or our draft SWIM CIP plan, so that we can continue to move on our capital improvement projects.
Okay. Did you have a question, Councilmember Blakely?
A quick question. Where is this railroad embankment dam and trail bridge that you're installing? Where exactly is that in the city?
Yeah, so it's right by the roundabout on May Creek Park Drive. There's a tributary of May Creek that flows actually underneath that roundabout. And a little bit further to the south, it's impounded by the embankment dam. So there's a pond a bit southeast of the May Creek roundabout. I can point it out. Right there.
At 12245 area, kind of. Oh wait, no, it's south. Okay.
12433 is probably the closest.
And so we are building. We're building a dam there to dam or to just control the water flow, or what exactly is this project? It's such a large part of our budget. I would love to get a little more detail.
Of course.
Yeah.
So Newcastle is, as we know, a historic coal mining town, and part of that coal mining operations involved a railroad that trucked it out or brought it out to Lake Washington. And so the railroad embankment dam is an old train trestle from that time period that was backfilled with coal mine tailings, which was a common practice at the time. And it originally had a clay culvert underneath it, which failed in 2018. And so we had, during a storm event in 2018, we actually had to pump water up and over the dam to stop the ponding, because it was filling up actually behind the dam and causing damage to it. So at this point, we identified it as a hazardous dam. And additionally, it's a fish passage block to our spawning salmon, which historically inhabited that stream. So there's a few interests in removing the dam, particularly for the safety aspect, but also for the fish passage.
Yeah, just a little bit. And Axon can make sure my details are okay. So working with the tribes on this specific project, what was required of us was to get it to final design. There's not a requirement for us to actually build it. And we didn't think that we would ever actually build it because we weren't going to build it unless we were able to get grant funding to fund the whole thing with grants. But we've continued to be successful in getting the grant funding, and so it's looking like maybe we'll be able to build it. One of the final aspects is that we need to make sure, so a related but separate project would be to then replace the bridge, because that's part of a trail. And so we need to be able to make sure we have funding also to replace the bridge, which would become a parks project, but related to this project. And so we have to be able to, so we weren't going to build it unless it was completely funded by grant funding, but that also needs to include the bridge. And so that's why it's such a large amount, because it's a massive project, but we were never going to build it unless we got funding, and we've been successful in getting funding. And so we didn't really plan to build it when we went down this road, because we thought there's no way we'll get all of the grant money for that, but we have. So.
We just need the 1 million then for that trail bridge? Is that what you're saying? That's the grant money that you're applying for next? Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Councilmember Villasenor?
Thank you. Yeah, I was just going to say that because I know that when we had these discussions, when Director Bronze was here, that we had gotten to the point where we had satisfied that. But the fact that this shows up in 2027 is, and we're just going to, even if we can't fund it, we'll just bump it down the road. It'll just continue to move until we can fund the whole thing, which would be 5.9 million. Really, it's the removal of the dam and then but just to clarify that the current level of ponding and the culvert pipe that went through there all works properly right now. There's no immediate issues.
There was a new culvert pipe installed
Right.
During that storm event.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
Councilmember Griffin?
Thank you. How much of the funding comes in from the residents?
I'll have to get back to you on that question.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
Thank you. Thanks for your presentation. And I have one question. I know there are a lot of acronyms. CIP, of course, I know Capital Improvement Plan. What does right here? What does the Q and the M stand for?
Is that the? I can back up.
Next to CIP. At the beginning.
That's
Yeah.
operations and maintenance.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Axton. You did a great job being Brian Miller today, so
Thank you.
appreciate all your detail and knowledge. I would just like to ask, is there anything any of us up here can do in any capacity to help you with your ongoing grant processes and applications? And also just to encourage you to not be afraid to ask us if we can advocate in any way.
I appreciate that. In S17 is basically entirely grant funded. So if we are to move on this project, the biggest block at this point is the funding for the trail bridge. So I suppose looking for opportunities for grants for funding that. And, I'll work alongside our parks planner, Brendan, to see if we can figure something out. But I think that would be helpful from all of council.
Any other questions or comments? This is just a discussion. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 12.2, discussion of potential surplus properties. I believe that's Director Fitzgibbons.
Good evening. This is a quick check-in. This is a similar presentation to what I discussed with the Economic Development Committee on the 24th of June. At our next meeting, next time I come back with this, we'll probably have Arch here with us. But anyway, without further ado, so briefly, over the last few years, we've been working on looking at our city properties out of, as we saw earlier today, the strategic plan. And we had 4 original sites that we thought might be candidates for further study. Max Benson from Arch worked with some affordable housing developers, and he noted that on Site D, which is right next to Regency on Newcastle Golf Club Road, which is here, and Coal Creek Parkway, that the access to that site was really hard to get into for essential services such as fire and police. And then also, if you imagine, this is zoned R24, so a developer would potentially want to come in and build something more like a mid-rise. Just that many people coming in and out of there, it didn't seem like it would work for residential use. Excuse me. But Site C, A and B, so C up here on the north, and then A and B here. We did have critical areas reconnaissance done on all 3 of these sites. Now, Site C is right here on China Creek. It was completely covered by critical areas buffers, so we stopped there. So now we have sites A and B. So Site A is here by Newcastle Elementary School. It is currently a portion of a stormwater pond, which you can't see too well, but that's on the western side. And we'll see that on the next slide. And then over here, Site B is just south of Lake Boren Park, right next to the Boren Creek townhomes. So Site A is covered with a steep slope, but it's on bedrock, so it has good soils. And interestingly, on this site, we all thought, oh, well, maybe the developer would be interested. You can't see it again on this slide, but kind of where it starts to even out, there are some areas down here that were previously developed. So we thought, oh, maybe they'd be interested in that. But it turned out that they were actually interested in this portion where it levels out a little bit west or east of the 465 topography line. These are topography lines here. Closer they are together, the steeper the hill is. Newcastle Elementary is right here, so they thought, well, even though it probably only has space for 1 to 2 units, that'd be a great place for affordable home. Even though the steep slope is here and our code requires a 50-foot buffer from the steep slope, that could potentially be reduced to 10 feet with recommendation of a licensed geotechnical engineer and of course review by the city. So this site is currently looking viable. We would need to do a boundary line adjustment. Again, you can see that here's the city storm pond down here. Obviously, we don't want to lose control over those, so we would look at doing a boundary line adjustment, probably on the lower portion of the lot, of course with final say from Public Works. And then the rest of the lot would become a privately owned lot. As for Lot B on Boren Creek, this one does have wetlands and the creek, and it has buffers, but it's not as inundated as we thought it might be, especially considering where the buffers go on the properties to the south and to the north. The property to the north here has come in a couple times for pre-application meetings and is completely covered. So we thought, oh, okay, well, this lot's going to be too, but it turns out that the western portion of this lot may have some developable area. This one is zoned R6, so it could be single-family homes, duplexes, ADUs. It could be a cottage development, although cottage developments require a significant amount of depth because they're developed around a courtyard. And so it's more likely that this would be single-family homes or duplexes. Because you'd have to go through, the developer would have to go through a conditional use permit process in order for a townhome to be developed on here. And from my understanding, most affordable housing developers are not willing to go through CUP processes. So right now, we do have Facet looking at doing the remainder of the study. There's a survey that's required, and then we'll have our more accurate buffer locations. The city does have provisions for reducing buffers and for doing what's called buffer averaging, so potentially those buffers could shift a little bit, leaving some additional developable area on this lot. So we're all curious to see how that goes. Our next steps, before we would declare surplus property, which I know there was a question earlier from Mr. Troutman about what are these public properties and how does a little bit about the sale. These public properties, I think they're both actually left over from the Coal Creek expansion project. Both of them were previously privately owned. They've both had houses on them previously, or portions of housing property, house property on them. And so they're really not being used for anything at the moment other than the stormwater pond. And there's certainly enough area there to portion off some amount of it for that Lot A. And then Lot B is a vacant lot. I think we did some of our critical areas mitigations there from the Coal Creek expansion. It's not slated for a park or any other public benefit. And then in terms of process, after we finish the critical areas review, we also need to do a title report. And then we could get into the declaration of the properties. There is a noticing period required. From what I've seen, we don't have to do a public hearing per se for that, but we do have to notice it publicly. We would go through then an RFP process with Arch. Again, there's a certain amount of noticing for that. And then after that is when we could actually enter into some sort of negotiation. So there's a little bit of time left. We're kind of leaving the report and study period, and we're moving into more of the process. One thing the city will need to decide, and we don't need to decide this tonight, but something to be thinking about is, whether or not we want to go through an open bidding or a donation dedication process. The open bidding in our code states that it's the preferred option because it's public, it's very public option, but if the city is, it also requires us to go through a, oh my gosh, the word is totally not coming to me. An appraisal. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Anyway, we have to do an appraisal, and we are supposed to sell for no less than the appraised value, the market value of the home, unless, or of the property, unless there is some public benefit to it. So we could go the public benefit route through the open process, or we could go through the donation and dedication process to a nonprofit, under which we're saying, you know, the benefit to the city is such that the cost of doing the studies, we would be okay with netting out kind of at the cost of the studies and any other additional entitlement documents that we have to come up with. So, you know, that's definitely a policy decision that we'll need to take under consideration. So that is my quick check-in. Do you have any questions or comments?
Councilmember Villasenor?
Yeah, thank you for presenting this. I mean, there's a lot of what I would consider from Arch's perspective benefit, but I think that an appraisal probably feels like the right thing to do regardless. You know, I think it'd be good to know what we have, right? I think that's I don't know what appraisal costs us, but it would be, I think for me, important to know, you know, what lot B and lot A are in terms of commercial value. I mean, without it, I think it's hard to say what direction we want to go. If it's a low land value due to its position or whatnot, then maybe it's maybe the donation route is better, but otherwise, you know, I see these properties as not just, you know, our ability to, you know, implement these types of like low-income housing type things, which I think are important for our community, but it also serves as, you know, a sort of like a savings account, right? It's value that the city holds, that in the event that we needed to raise money in a certain time frame, we could sell land, right? So I think that we need to understand the value of that land, so that we can so at least for me anyway, so I can get my head around, you know, what direction we should go with this. So, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Director Fitzgibbon. So this is, the director's been really great about working, being very communicative with this whole process with us in the Economic Community Development Committee. And Arch has also been a really great partner for us and really actively working with their staff on these properties. I think, it's a very long-term, it's been a very slow burn from originally taking an inventory of sort of what land we had as a city to look at all the way to this point and looking at these things and considering them. I think we can save policy debates on specifically what we want to do with, I agree, getting more information and then sort of operating from there. I do think it is a compelling option to, we have the Arch projects we have in our city are all with apartments and putting a cost control on that said apartment. We don't have any projects in our city that are truly just Arch construction. And I think just my overall view of these lots is I think they're great places for, we don't control who would move there, but I think they're great places for people to live, and especially for families to live. We have right across from Lakebourne Park. We have right next to Newcastle Elementary. These are great places with parks, with great schools, with really easy access to public transportation to be part of our community. So I'm excited with whatever route we take for this as an opportunity for more people to call Newcastle home and to contribute to the, very much needed housing supply across the whole region, which we know is very much in need. So happy to take more thoughts or questions on it as well too. But next step is proceeding with the wetland study, which is actually not going to, I believe it's not going to go over the threshold where we would need to review it as a council. It'd just be go to finance committee And I know it's something we're going to look at and have deeper discussions August, September as well. But I'm really grateful for the Director Fitzgibbon and this really long process to get to this point. I just want to call that out. So.
Any other questions, comments? We're not making any decisions tonight, so thank you for the information. Appreciate it. Thank you for bringing this forward from the Economic and Development Committee. Okay, moving on to our additional public comment period. Nobody signed up? And nobody online? Okay, well then we will close our additional public comment period and move on to planning calendar. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. For the July 21st meeting, it's pretty light, and I hope it stays that way. So we'll have the Q2 financial report from Director Chambers, and we'll discuss the Waterline condo property and its availability and anything we want to do with that. But really what I'd like to spend some time on is the early look at the 2027 budget, and not just from the standpoint of like we'll know what the CPI is by then, and we'll have some estimates as far as insurance and things like that. But I really want to walk through what you should expect as far as the budget process from here, along with what we've seen from just using our sustainability model, what 2027 is looking like, and really from the standpoint of our current financial policies, and what you can expect moving forward. And so I want to be able to take some time to be fairly thorough about some big picture things, which I would love to be able to take some time and be able to have some presentation and discussion around that. And so that's what I hope for the 21st.
Great. Any questions about the planning calendar? Okay. Well, with no further business, this meeting is adjourned at 8:55 p.m. Thank you.